Hello everyone, welcome back to Be the Whole You. My name is Gulveg, and today we're going to be talking about this partial lunar eclipse slash full moon on October 28th, 2023. This is a really big deal, and there is a lot to cover about this full moon in Taurus. This partial lunar eclipse is like a package with the solar eclipse that came on October 14th. So if you haven't watched that video, I'd recommend taking a look at that, because these two energies are working in partnership where they will be affecting us for the next 6 months. So if you're interested in that, you haven't taken a gander at that solar eclipse energy, take a look at the link in the description below. So this lunar eclipse is going to be visible in Africa and in Europe. Here in the United States, in Arizona, where I'm at, unfortunately, we're not going to actually be able to see the lunar eclipse, but nevertheless, we will be feeling this. And the energy of this full moon is going to extend beyond the typical 3 days, which is kind of felt, or it's kind of agreed upon generally that the energy of full moons and new moons usually last around 3 days. But this one, and in conjunction with the solar eclipse, is going to extend well into 2024. So it's said that when the lunar eclipse, or any eclipse actually, happens, there's a portal, there's a gateway, and it's a doorway into potentially a new beginning. And that time actually speeds up. Even in Vedic astrology, they talk about how a lot of transformation and shift and changes can be condensed and can happen very quickly around these eclipses. And so the solar eclipse was all about our relationships. And this lunar eclipse takes that information that we have gleaned from our relationships, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, all of it. Most likely this month we have had maybe some aha moments, maybe we've come face to face with some things in our relationships that we don't like. And this isn't just intimate relationships. This isn't relationships of all kinds, professional, friendship, and first and foremost, also how we relate to ourselves. And this lunar eclipse brings that awareness of how we relate to ourselves and how that affects all of our life, not just relationships, but how we relate to the world at large. It's going to be bringing a lot of that to the surface. So it can be very empowering if we are able to move through fears. So there is an acronym for fear that I really like. It says fear can either be forget everything and run, or it can be face everything and rise. And this lunar eclipse definitely has that potential. So throughout 2023, Taurus has been a big player. Taurus energy has been a big player. 2023 is about taking spiritual information and really grounding it into creating practical, tangible change in our everyday life. And Taurus is an earth element, and so it is really ideal for this kind of transformation. And this full moon happens to be in Taurus. So we have the full moon that's in Taurus, and then opposing it, we have the sun at 5 degrees in Scorpio. Now, the sun at 5 degrees in Scorpio is conjunct with both Mercury at 10 degrees in Scorpio and Mars at 11 degrees in Scorpio. So when we have planets that are conjunct, you can basically look at it as like they're like teaming up together and combining their energies so that it's kind of like a planet package, right? So all of these are in Scorpio, obviously. So we have this, Scorpio is the energy of transformation. It's about death and rebirth. It's about going into the underworld. And Scorpio, probably more than any other sign, is really perfect for subconscious and emotional transformation. And so we're excavating the things that we have been coming up. And probably some of these things are things that we didn't just have an aha moment. We may have had an inkling that these things have been festering or germinating, however it is you want to take a look at it, for a while. And what's beautiful also about this is I think that there's a real opportunity to pause for a second and give yourself a good pat on the back. Chances are, if you're watching these kind of videos, you probably do some sort of self-analysis, and that self-awareness on some level is probably somewhat important to you. And there's a good chance that in this eclipse season that you might just have some clarity on like, wow, like, you know, I've come a long way. So take a moment and give yourself like that well-deserved pat on the back, that even if there's still work that needs to be done, even if there's challenges and imbalances, and even if there's just plain old messes that we need to clean up in our life, that chances are you've been working pretty hard at spiritual evolution and healing, not just this year, but really since 2020, most likely. So give yourself, I'm just giving you permission, like, good job. Now with that, that energy of Sun, Mercury, and Mars, there's going to be a lot of feels that are going to come up. You know, anytime transformation happens, anytime that we see that shift needs to change, shift needs to happen, that things need to change, most likely it's going to elicit some deep feelings. And the Sun is at 5 degrees in Scorpio. 5 is the number of change. And then we have Mercury at 10 degrees in Scorpio, which is about new beginnings, and it's 1 plus 0, so 0 is new beginnings, and 1 is a number of identity, sovereign self, the individual, and taking that first step in a particular phase or new beginning. And then we have Mercury at 11 degrees in Scorpio. 11 is considered a master builder number. So this is really, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the conjunctions that are with the moon here in a second. And when I do, you're going to see that Scorpio is the spiritual component, and then this full moon and all this Taurus energy and Jupiter and Neptune that are conjunct with that energy in Taurus, that is the below energy. So we are able to take our spiritual evolution, our spiritual lessons, and really have an opportunity to anchor it into our everyday life. For a lot of parts in 2023, if you were to take a look at a lot of the videos from 2023, you would see that there is a consistent theme that keeps coming up over and over again over this last year about relationships and the rights and needs of the individual versus the rights and needs of the group, the community, the organization, whether or not that be your blood relatives, your spiritual family, your friends, or society at large. You know, especially for folks, those of us who have a hard time being seen and speaking our truth because of fear of judgment. These are, or any other reason, this theme has come up over and over and over again. And as these different lunar alignments keep coming up, we've been invited to be peeling back the layers from this entire year. And now everything's coming to a milestone. Everything is coming to a head. This is a really big deal. It's a really big deal. I'm not saying that after 6 months from now, like, you know, all challenges are going to be, you know, null and void and everything's going to be necessarily easy, but they're not going to be the same. In 6 months from now, I think a lot of us, especially those of us who really foster self-analysis, self-awareness, healing, growth, we're going to see a lot of shift and a lot of change. And if we can heal those subconscious influences and stay on that path of self-awareness and allowing ourselves to face everything and rise, then those changes most likely will be to our benefit, not to our detriment. So let's take a look at so we have the Scorpio energy that is Sun, Mercury, and Mars. And then we have the lunar energy, which is the moon is at 4 degrees at Taurus, and then it is conjunct Jupiter at 11 degrees in Taurus. And even though the moon isn't conjunct Neptune, because Neptune's at 21 degrees at Taurus, usually conjunctions are usually considered to be about 10 degrees. Neptune is conjunct Jupiter, and Jupiter is conjunct and Jupiter is conjunct the moon. So I am considering it to be like one big package. It's kind of like Neptune is the caboose on this conjunction train. And so we have Jupiter that expands anything that it touches. And what's really kind of nice too is that Jupiter is considered to be lucky. And so it sprinkles in a little bit of luck, even though it might be amplifying some of these feels. And the moon is at 4 degrees in Taurus, and 4 is the number of, again, of foundation. So we have this this repeat of this theme of what we were talking about with Scorpio, with Mars being 11 degrees and it being a master builder number in Scorpio. Well, the moon is has subconscious influences and connection as well. It's considered to be, you know, a very psychic lunar or psychic astrological influence. And 4 is the number, again, of building a foundation. So here we have the theme of taking stock of all the things. Like, I mean, it's not just going to be this month. It's going to be, you're going to be pulling stuff from that you have learned, and awareness and techniques and helpful things. You're going to be taking stock of all of that. And in this eclipse, we're finally going to be able to create a plan. Like this really is a alignment that's going to allow us to create a blueprint for our future. Where do we want to go? And that brings me to Neptune. Neptune at 21 degrees in Taurus. 2 is the number of relationships. 1, again, is the number of individuality, identity, and taking those first steps into a new phase. If we were to take a look at the solar eclipse video, if you were to review that, you would see that it was all about relationships. We were taking stock of our external world and saying, what about this out here works for me, and what about my relationships don't, and what is it that I need to change in order to have integrity with what it is that I need as an individual and what my external world is providing me. And so now that we've taken stock of all of that, Neptune, one of its gifts it's a very big picture kind of energy. So it's able to take a look at the big picture and imagine the possibilities. Yes, Neptune is also associated in its shadow side about delusions and illusions. But with all of the grounding of Taurus and these builder numerology, I think it's probably less likely that we're going to float away into the Neptune ocean, and instead use our imagination to be able to think about sustainable, tangible changes. And what I would recommend is that if that big vision starts to feel overwhelming or unattainable, break it down into small, digestible chunks, small steps. There is no step forward that is too small. So any step forward, even if it's a crawl, even if it's just like a little tiptoe over into the unknown, that's enough. That's enough. And then when you're ready, the next day, tomorrow, or the next week, you take another step. There is no too small step. The thing too about Mars being at 11 degrees in Scorpio is that there is a possibility that we might get a little agitated with the amount of feels that we have, for the amount of change that we see, and if it's a lot of change that needs to shift, that might feel even more agitating, more overwhelming. But the thing to use in order to help to move that energy, that agitation, is the Mercury energy that's at 10 degrees in Scorpio. Communicate your ideas, ask for help. And this is even more important if some of the stuff that has come up is that affects your relationships and maybe some of the healing or the growth that needs to be done. It's even more important for those of us who struggle with the disease to please, boundaries, saying yes when we mean no, chronically putting other people's desires and needs before ours, even to our own detriment, those kind of things. If we have a hard time communicating our needs or asking for help, then it is even more important that we do so, because chances are those of us who struggle with those challenges will probably feel really frustrated. So communicate the needs, communicate your desires. If there isn't a friendly ear or somebody who you feel can really listen, reach out to a therapist, reach out to a practitioner support. Allow yourself to be heard, because when we can get our ideas out of here and get it out into space, even if it is just writing in a journal, it helps us to get out of the mental loops that can feel very obsessive and overwhelming. So what else did I wrote down, like when I was looking at the chart, I was just making all of these notes. So I want to make sure that I'm not skipping over anything that I felt like was really, really important. And we will get to the tarot here in a second. So yeah, I think that so what's also interesting is that Neptune and Jupiter are both also in retrograde. So this also repeats that influence of the subconscious influences, because when planets are going retrograde, it's said that they're going into the underworld. So, psychologically, what this is looked at as those planets are going into the realm of our subconscious. They're affecting our subconscious. So again, we have Jupiter that's expanding anything it touches, and it's going into the underworld with the planet that it's conjunct, Neptune in this case, which is like, okay, let's go into the underworld. Let's take a look at what might be subconsciously sabotaging us, and see, like, are there some things that I believe about myself or I believe about others or the world that then create reflections that only then support the story that I tell myself, even if that story isn't helpful. So those are some things that are going to, Jupiter and Neptune are going into the subconscious realms, and they're helping all of the Scorpio energy bring up and transmute the things that aren't helpful. And then we have Mars and we have the moon that are there saying, okay, from this new foundation, now that we've excavated, what can we build in its place? And Neptune is there to say, I'll help you create a new vision for your future. If you need a North Star, a new North Pole to be moving towards, for example, if most of your decisions have been defined by the opinions of others, then you'll probably go through a period of trying to redefine what then, if that isn't going to be influencing your decisions anymore, what will? What are you going to base it on? And that might require like taking a look at what it is that you believe about yourself and then creating more empowering beliefs. This isn't necessarily the easiest energy to work with, but it is so empowering, and I feel like it's taking all of the energy from 2023, it's wrapping it up in a bow, and there's very few times in which the universe lays out a welcome mat for transformation and for an accelerated shift and changes in our physical world the way that it does with this eclipse. So let's take advantage of it. Even if there's hard things to do, it's totally going to be worth it. Any hard work, any amount of difficult work that you put in is going to be paid back tenfold with this eclipse. I thoroughly believe that. So let me see, anything else here? Okay, so Venus at 18 degrees in Virgo is creating a sesqui square with the moon. So that means that it's going to create an enhanced organization and clarity on how to clean up, complete any of this stuff from the past that may be having a unhelpful hold on you moving forward in the future. So this Virgo energy is going to really allow us to be able to be pragmatic with our approach. And when I was talking about breaking it into smaller steps, this energy is really going to help with that. Venus is the ruling planet for Taurus. So again, we have this Taurus energy being repeated again. And even though Venus is the planet for Taurus, it's in the sign of Virgo, another earth energy type of zodiac sign. And Virgo is all about analysis, organization, and breaking things up into smaller steps. So the only thing about that is that we need to be careful about perfectionism and again, holding back communication on what it is that we need, communicating our desires, our preferences, and our boundaries for fear of judgment. That's the only thing that we need to watch out for with that. And then again, you know, this theme that we've been visiting for 2023 is the rights and needs of the self versus the rights and needs of others is being expressed again with the North Node at 24 degrees in Aries. Aries is the zodiac sign about the sovereign self. And then the South Node is at 24 degrees in Libra. Libra is about the community. So we have the North Node in Aries, which is what we're moving towards, and the South Node is what we've already integrated or what it is that we've already learned. So for many of us, we will take a look at how it is that we will need to redefine our identity and how we relate to our community, whether or not that be close friendships or that be humanity in general. Oh yes, we have a grand trine with the rising that's in Cancer, the midheaven in Pisces, and then that Sun, Mercury, and Mars conjunction that we have in Scorpio, that is creating a grand trine. And a grand trine is a alignment that is harmonious and supportive. So the squares are usually the points of friction and lessons and things that need to be integrated and learned, but the trines are things that are going to be supportive and things that we can pull from usually, and typically we can usually use those grand trines to help support whatever work the squares are presenting to us. So in this case, the talent that the grand trine is going to be giving us is enhanced emotional awareness, intuition, and enhanced not just self-awareness, but also an enhanced ability to be able to marry what it is that we desire for our future, what kind of relationships that we want, what kind of life we're wanting to build, what kind of changes we're wanting to create, and marry that with, create a bridge essentially with where it is that we want to go, or where it is that we are now, and then using not just the Virgo energy to break that into pragmatic steps, but it's also going to be based on our intuition and our heart. So this is really a beautiful alignment that's going to allow us to marry the logical sides of ourselves with the intuitive and the imaginative sides of ourselves. And when both of these sides are working harmoniously together, I mean, the sky's the limit at that point. We usually limit ourselves because we are either camping out too much in one side or the other. Too much imagination and intuition without any kind of logic, analysis, or ability to plan means that we're usually just kind of stuck on our head and up in the cosmos. too much logic and analysis, usually we become too rigid. We aren't able to really look at the big picture, and we can limit ourselves and put ourselves into boxes and not really expand the potential of what it is that we could have and who we could be. So when we can marry these two, then those limitations of camping out in those extremes become less likely. I don't think that this eclipse is just a doorway. This eclipse is more like a subway, because we're going into the underground, into the underworld, right? And we can take this fast track to where it is that we want to go. It isn't just going from one room to another or entering into like a new structure. We could go into a whole new neighborhood, a whole new world that we may had thought previously either didn't exist or wasn't available to us. There is so much potential with this eclipse. So with that, I'm excited to see what the cards may have to say, because I mean, personally, I think that that's a lot of information by itself, but this is a tarot and astrology reading. So let's take a look at what the tarot has to say about how best to leverage this lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus, October 28th, 2023. And please join me in holding that intention for yourself, that whatever part of this reading here, whatever part of the message is most pertinent to you and whatever circumstances you're facing, that those will automatically stand out to you the most. All right. Okay. We had a jumper. I personally think that when cards jump out of a deck, it's like the energy of that card's like, me, I have something really important to say. All right. So the first card that comes up is the Eight of Pentacles reversed. And this is all about creating new skill sets, new hobbies. I always look at it as potentially a way to up-level our creativity. Because usually when it's right side up, it's more about external hobbies and new skill sets, sometimes a new vocation. But when we are upside down, it really is more of a personal exploration of creativity and new awareness around what our strengths are. So it could very well be also what's coming to me around that is a lot of us may find a lot of clarity around pursuing creative activities. So even if it doesn't matter what it looks like, even if it's stick figures, you may just find a lot of clarity by just sitting down and doodling, or writing, or creating music. You know, just play. And with that, one of the reasons why I say that is because the very next card that comes up is the Ace of Swords. And the Ace of Swords is about success, clarity, aha moments, cutting through the BS, and it's also like mentally we can see the steps ahead. So it's like you can see here, like we have this fog, this mist, right? Like we couldn't really see like what the next step was. A lot of like the first part of 2023 had that energy. And then we have this sword, which represents our intellect and our mental constitution, just cutting right through any of the ambiguity, any of the illusions and delusions, and connecting to the crown, connecting to our connection with spirit, so that we can cut through any of the uncertainty and create a streamlined path ahead. That's going to empower us, which also is very interesting, is because the Emperor card is associated with the zodiac sign of Aries. And we talked about how this the North Node is in Aries. And and the North Node is what we are moving towards. So the cards here are also reflecting that, where we have this internal growth and enhancement of our self-awareness, more personal skill sets that then create more clarity and perhaps even a tangible plan ahead, which then gives us empowerment and a new empowered sense of self and identity, where we become the masters of our own life. We're not delegating that to anybody else. And because that is, I mean, delegation is a good thing when you're talking about mundane stuff. You know, go on Fiverr, hire somebody to, you know, to do your book work, or to create your website, or whatever it is that you need. But when it comes to these personal decisions and how we want to navigate through life, can't delegate that out. We can't rely on everybody else's opinions and feedback to make our decisions. It's good to have that feedback, you know, have that be part of information that you pull from, but at the end of the day, has to come from you. Has to come from you. And this isn't to put pressure on anyone. It's actually more about, it's about freedom. It's not about pressure or even containment. When you are the one that gets, your heart is the thing that gets to lead the way, it's, you shake off the shackles of the past. The shackles of the past are the next two cards. So what we're moving away from is the Nine of Pentacles reversed, which, when she is right side up, she sends her falcon, which represents her spirit, to go hunt down what it is that she wants. For a while now, we may have been in this place where either it was too exhausting to go think on that big picture scale, or it was either just didn't seem reasonable, rational, whatever. There was something that kept us tethering our spirit inward and didn't let it fly, where we weren't in a place where imagining the big picture possibilities really felt sustainable. And this has to do with a feeling of alienation in some part. This is the card that popped out of the deck, folks. So there's a couple of things that are coming up with the Nine of Pentacles. The thing that was keeping us limited is a feeling of alienation, as well as our relationship to money. So the Five of Pentacles is about that kind of energy. These two folks, they're outside of the temple. Inside the temple, all of their needs could be met. There's warmth, there's fire, there's food, there's spiritual nurturing, but for whatever reason, they're outside in the cold. And honestly, it's their decision to stay out there. And what's interesting is, so it's coming to me here as I'm taking a look at the imagery here, their backs are to the temple. I just kind of wonder if they've even checked to see if the temple is open, or have they turned around to see if the temple's even there? Do they even know? So the five, again, we have the Five of Pentacles. 5 is the number of change. And so it's time for us to come out of the mists. It's time for us to realize that there's a lot more support available to us than what it is that we're giving ourselves credit for. And to ask the questions and seek the help, seek the assistance, do the research necessary in order to leverage the support and resources that are just there for us to take anyway. The universe is presenting those on a golden platter, but it's up to us to turn around and to seek it out. Guides don't talk to you unless you talk to them. And the universe, that's not always the case, but more often than not, the universe does not offer advice or support or help until we ask for it. And this is in support and in respect of our own free will. So let's use our free will to create, one of the things, to create a new relationship with money and resources, and to either attract more of that, or to, trim any fat that might be there of how maybe we're bleeding out resources or money in ways that really aren't supporting us. All of those things, those are things that we could reanalyze here. And that's probably also with that Venus in Virgo. Venus is the planet of wealth. And so she's in Virgo at 18 degrees. So this would be a really great time to also take a look at money matters and see how things could be restructured. Are assets needing to be sold that really aren't helping you anymore? Do we need to get a different job that's higher paying? Is it necessary to move somewhere where we would have more opportunity? Do we need to put ourselves out there in a new way? Is it time to start that new business that we've been thinking about but aren't really quite sure, or there's a lot of self-doubt, or it just feels really overwhelming? Our relationship with money has a ripple effect to affect everything in our life, because our survival and our foundations are built on that. So that piece of it there was something that didn't come up in the astrology piece. So I'm really helpful for that additional layer. So relating to it, so just to kind of summarize, we are creating new blueprints on how we relate to ourselves, the healing that needs to be done in order for those new plans to be sustainable, breaking those plans up into small digestible steps, and not just taking a look at how we relate to individuals, but also how we relate to the world at large, including financial resources. So this has been a good one. I'm really, really excited to see where folks are going to be in 6 months. I'm excited to see what's going to happen for me in 6 months. So would love to hear your thoughts and comments below. Again, if you want to take a look and review that solar eclipse reading that I did a couple of weeks ago to see how it correlates with the lunar eclipse, take a look at the link below there too. And if you are in need of a personalized reading or any kind of inner child work, joy coaching, to be able to remove the things that may be standing in the way of your joy, and to be able to remember and reawaken how to connect to joy and creativity, take a look at the link below and schedule your session as well. If I also offer 20-minute complimentary consultation sessions as well. So take care and lots of self-care. Again, give yourself the pat on the back that you much well deserve for all of the work that you've done ahead and that you've done, and moving ahead, bringing all of those lessons as cherished treasures that you're able to pull from to create this new sustainable blueprint for your future. Happy Samhain, happy Halloween, please stay safe, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. We're going to take a look at the next new moon. Bye-bye.